2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's all involved booking guests, setting up for the next day. I get hundreds of emails a day all over from everywhere. And I'm an addict. If somebody sends me an email and asks a question, guess what I do? I answer it. And the next thing I know, I'm looking at 3:30 in the morning. I don't know.
But it keeps you, out of trouble and off the street.
Yeah, it also keeps me out of the bedroom, which I think my wife is quite happy about.
No, I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's been an adventure. I think even the website. I don't know if you've looked at it or not.
I have. I like it.
I had to redo the whole thing, and when I told her what I wanted, she said, "Oh, you can't do it that way." And I said, "Nobody's looking at my drop-down menus. I want the buttons for them all on the front page." And she said, "You can't do that. It's not done." And I said, "Is it against the law?" And she said, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, then you do it, or I'll find somebody else who will." And so she did it, and it works great. But it's kind of like every now and then I turn around and it's like, oh man, I haven't done anything for some of these buttons here. I haven't added 2 things as much as I would like to, and then it's like you, finding people and booking them, and now keeping it pretty close to the chest, not knowing when I'm gonna, the show is gonna go dark for a month while I move. So I don't want to get too far booked ahead, because then to have to move everybody is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah. Try booking 5 guests a week. We, at one point, because I'm my agent, I had to sit there and tell my agent, I said, look, we were on 4 hours a night. I had 2 guests a night. And I told my agent, I said, look, I can't deal with 2 guests a night, 4-hour night show, and everything else. And all it would take is like 2 minutes before showtime. A guest, would email me, I can't make it. Then what do you do? I mean, you sit there and try to find somebody to fill in, but you can't. So there's 2 hours of talking, in between and the other guests. I even went, I think, James, didn't we have one night where both guests canceled? They were sick?
Yeah. Yeah, and that was during the flu season. I'll tell you what, that's hard to book 2 people a night times, 20 days? Yeah, that's hard. And anything could happen. That's the more guests you have, the more chances you have of them canceling or getting sick or whatever.
Yeah. I'm just glad the show is at the point where I don't really have to look for guests too much anymore. I get, they want to come on. So that makes it a lot easier. Thank God for that.
Well, sometimes, though, there are some very strange people out there.
Uh-huh. Yes, we know that. Right, James? We know that.
Yes. But you probably like
ma'am.
those people. I have been given some guests that, somebody said were fabulous, and they turned out to be, I just sit here and I just pray that they don't say something bad, because they come close. And it's like I really try very hard to talk to people before they're on the show, so that I make sure that they are semi-straight. I like a little crazy, but
What I don't like is when you know what the guest is going to talk about. They approach you, and they're saying, "This is the topic I want to talk about." Okay, and then you get them on. You would hope they at least talk 1 or 2 words about their topic they said they were going to talk about, and they talk about something that's really strange and you don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, I think the most fun guest I ever had, excuse me, was Dr. Sam Osmanovich. He's the one that discovered and is excavating the Bosnian pyramid. And he's a fascinating man. And so I read his book, I watched the videos, I was all ready for him. I had questions up the wazoo. I could have talked to him for 5 nights, and I introduced him, and from then on he took over. And it was like he would say, and you would ask me, Barbara, da-da-da-da-da. Well, I'll tell you what. He asked himself the damn questions, and I was sitting there. I never got a word in. I could have taken a bath and baked cookies.
I've had that happen once or twice. I hate it. I will say this. I'm not going to mention the guy's name, But I had this one guy on, and it was about Bigfoot. I'll say that much. And he's a doctor, a psychiatrist. And the first thing, we introduce him and we talk for a minute. Then he starts going into a script. I asked him a question about 5 minutes into it because I was getting scared. I said to myself, this is a script. He says to me, he goes, you can't ask me questions. And I said, well, this is a talk show. I brought you on to ask you questions about your book and about Bigfoot. He goes, no. And everything he did was scripted to the point, even at one point, he cried. Then I went on YouTube and looked at some of his seminars. Halfway through a seminar, it was identical to what his seminars were, word for word, including where he cried at.
Oh, wow.
And I tell you, that was 3 hours of going through torture. I actually could have went out and baked cookies. I could have went out and done the laundry and ironed the laundry and mopped the floors. And he would have been talking.
I mean, I love Dr. Sam, and he's coming on again. He's coming back to the States for something, and I'm going to have him on again. But I know I don't have to do much prep work because he's just going to do it all himself, and I'm really fine with that because he's fascinating. It's when people say, "Oh, I have a lot of new material. I can't wait to be on the show," and I don't say, and I should. Well, give me some talking points just in case. I want to make sure that I lead you in the direction you want to be led. And this one guy didn't. And he literally read for 2 hours. And he read right from his book. And I knew he was reading from the book because I had read the book. And it was so boring. It was just awful. I could have cried because he was, the first show he did was great. But he had no new stuff. He just wanted more airtime for more publicity.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to be used that way. If you've got new stuff, I'm all there.
Well, I will say it. This is a two-way street. When I bring a guest on, I tell them, please share me on your media. I'm going to promote you. I'm going to, even spend money promoting you out there at different places. And then you find out, you bring them on, and afterwards they didn't even bother promoting you or telling anybody you're going to be on your show. That kind of upsets me. It does. And then, like I said, you get some guests are stinkers. But you know what? Overall, I enjoy it. But I tell you what, one thing, when you are on different radio stations, one of the chat features I have with my broadcast software, it goes to, to the company that serves the radio stations. I start getting these messages from the board operators at the radio stations or the engineers saying, what in blank and a blank is your show about tonight? I hear about it, and you don't want to hear stuff like that because it doesn't take many of those and they don't carry your show anymore.
Sure.
So,
well, that's what I like about Blog Talk. I don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah. Well, on the speaker end, it's the same way. My problem with Speaker, I will say that with them, is that most people can't figure out how to use the chat. So most people on there, I get nothing but, I can't get on your chat. Even James can't get on the chat 90% of the time. He has to spend, I can't get on the chat. So half the time.
It's hard sometimes. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
I don't know what's
you
up
find
with it.
that
His own
confusing?
personality.
Pardon me, Barbara?
Don't you find that confusing if there's now I used to, my chat room used to be very, very busy when I was doing readings, and I would know when the show was getting boring because it would take on a life of its own, and they would share recipes, and and I have to admit I got a couple of great recipes off that chat room, but it's distracting.
Yeah, it can be. I've had that happen a little bit. Not on recipes, but they started talking about car parts and stuff like that. That kind of was like, oh, okay. Hey, Barbara, I really, really enjoyed having you on the show. Again, you can find Barbara on Blog Talk Radio. What nights?
Monday nights and Tuesday nights.
Okay, and from what time?
9 to 11 and 10 to 12.
And that's Eastern time?
That's Eastern, yes.
Okay. People, you need to check it out. And also, your replays are also on YouTube, if I remember right?
Yep, they're on YouTube, absolutely.
Okay. Well, hey, Barbara, I want to thank you so much. And next time you talk to Mary Joyce, say hi for me. You know, I need to get her back on my show, too.
Yeah, she's a great interview. Absolutely. I will tell her.
Okay, kid. Well, you have a great one. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Good night now.
Good night. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, James.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting night tonight.
It has. It's refreshing. We got a guest that flowed pretty good and very knowledgeable, and it was good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we touched on virtually everything from Tesla, UFOs, to when she was in college, a UFO landing down at, the baseball field. And it was about the size of the field. That was interesting. And talking about how the police and all that stuff were, there all night, checking the area out. I wonder if they were checking for aliens.
I know. That's something else. From home to second base is about 90 feet, so that's pretty good little size UFO going on there.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think, the show compared to last night, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, me too. That's what I said. That was my buzzword when I said refreshing.
Well, guess what? Who do we have on tomorrow?
Tomorrow night, Tony Rathman will be on. He's also a friend of mine. He's very, very, very good ghost hunter. He's into scientific versions of it. He was a non-believer until he became a believer a few years ago because of the evidence scientifically that he has caught, and he will talk about it tomorrow night.
Yeah, so we'll have him on, and then next week we got some great guests coming up. And then in February, we got some huge major guests coming on, heavy hitters. So we're going to talk a lot about UFOs again in February with some heavy hitters. We're also going to talk about the paranormal. It's going to be really a great month in February. Again, go to our website, nightdreamstalkradio.com. Check out that picture of the backside of the moon. It's rather interesting. It doesn't look the same as the size of the moon we look at. It looks totally different. So you can check that picture out on our website. Again, people eating iguanas and buying, iguana meat off of Facebook Marketplace. What else would they sell? I mean...
bat soup.
No, I would not eat bat soup or snake, especially now what's going on. What I am really concerned down a month or two, if they don't get this virus under control, what could happen? I mean, we're talking a huge amount of the population perishing. So hopefully they get that taken care of.
Yeah, that's a big thing because it's already... Just in my news reports, it's went from a few days ago to there was some cases in China to now it's in one in U.S. and then 6 in U.K. since within 2 days.
Yeah, and now what were they projecting out if they don't resolve it here shortly?
30 million in 6 months could die from this.
Yeah, I read 30 to 50 million. That is a lot. So hopefully they can get this under control. I think what they need to do is basically quarantine China right now. In other words, I don't think any flight should come out of China. I think that, that's just my feeling. And maybe they've already done that. If they haven't, they need to do that. Well, tomorrow, again, we got Tony on. We're going to be talking about ghost hunting and all that stuff. So make sure you tell your friends about Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. You want to make sure that you tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great show. And next week it's going to be really cool. And hopefully James has some great stories like he had today on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody have a great one. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Again, check out our website, nightdreamstalkradio.com. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.